Welcome to Great Talking Entertainment. I'm your host, Kate J, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everyone. My name is Cajun. I'm the host of Great Talking Entertainment official channel. And today's spoiler review is the new series on Netflix, crime drama, His and Her, episode 3 spoiler review. So if you have not seen this, please pause this. And before you go, could you hit the thumbs up button, aka the like button? That would help my YouTube channel out. And I thank you guys in advance. So again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. This episode starts off with a flashback as Anna is at a school that she used to go to. And we learn that Rachel and Malene have gone to as well as teenagers. And this flashback just shows like Rachel just being a bully. Like this had like this Pretty Little Liars / Mean Girl type vibe of like how rude and mean and cruel teenage girls can be to other teenage girls or just young adults. And it was just showing that, and then obviously it just flash forwards into the current time as Anna is covering for Lexi Jones, who some reason is sick. But what's interesting about this is Lexi just randomly popped up like minutes before the thing started, and I was like, damn, like. And so to me, that shows in this episode, like, we're kind of seeing, like, some way, somehow, and this is what I like about this show so far, is if it seems like a side story, just to fill in the time they need for each episode or whatever, at least this all connects. Like, there's some type of jealousy within these women. Like, maybe Lexi was somebody who Rachel might have picked on. Or maybe, like, Lexi was trying to actually be her friend as a child, but Anna obviously chose the popular girls. That's what I can kind of see in this type of situation of why they would show that. But, but before, she was anticipating this, we see her have fear. Because, again, the idea of another thing that her career could be destroyed if anybody discovered something about Rachel. What if Jack discovered something about Anna that he could pin this on Anna if this caused Rachel's quote unquote death? But also, if this was turned around, what if Anna could find something to prove that Jack might have murdered Rachel Hopkins? So there's so much that's going on, because Detective Jack also discovered Rachel and Clyde had like a or into some kinky stuff, basically. And, it's the typical dominatrix things. We know that Clyde threw away some old garbage and, like pizza boxes and stuff. And then Detective Pura looked deeper into that garbage bag and found like a dominatrix max, or you just use your imagination. It was leather text, black. And yeah, I'm sure his the only thing he can breathe out was his mouth at that, if he wore that mask, but which he did, obviously. So this is like one of those things. Like, we know that in a way, I don't think Clyde had really anything to do, but it's really showing more now to me personally that I'm thinking it's more Jack who might have committed the murder. Because right now in this episode, he looks more innocent, even though in episode 2 he did wash his clothes. And why would you? I mean, there's always a good reason why you should wash your clothes, but the fact that he went outside, let his dog out in the rain, which, hey, if you're a dog owner, you know, right? But the fact that he just automatically washed them and his shoes seemed very suspicious. And this now here, but he seems more innocent. But why did he throw away that mask? Obviously, he's an owner of pizza, food chain buildings, and stuff, properties probably, and obviously the world finding out that he's into stuff like that may not want to eat the pizzas of the company that he owns or whatever. And so there's that, and then we get to another scene where Jack and his sister Zoe were having an argument and stuff, and Zoe was calling Jack out on some stuff where she pretty much got it out of. He didn't say he did say it later on, but Zoe figured out that Jack and Rachel hooked up and did the nasty in the back seat of the truck, which was the day of the crime. And he wasn't really too convincing to Zoe when she asked him, "Did you murder Rachel?" He said no, but he was very quick about it. He looked worried. And he really couldn't look her in the eyes, but he did look her in the eyes to make it look like, but you can kind of tell he was struggling to look her in the eyes. And I think Zoe, deep down inside, believes that her brother did it, but I don't think she wants to, because apparently he's paying for everything in the child support that he would get. Zoe would get, wouldn't cut it to pay any of the bills that for housing and her daughter. So it just seems like this is kind of in a weird place. But this, to me though, this episode gets a little bit not confusing, but a little bit strange. And this is a good strange as well, because from everything I just read, Jack seems like a dirty cop. But as we go more into this episode, we know that Jack had a moment with Anna's mom right after Anna's mother, was kind of senile, delusional, and she got lost because of the Alzheimer's. And I get, that's a real thing. And so, but there's a moment where Anna's mom's like, you need to just do your job and get her back. Like, just quit telling him, quit moping around and do something about it. Grab the bull by the horns type situation. Because I don't know, maybe it's just her being real. Like, Anna's mom's just giving some life experience of wisdom and advice. But he does take that into consideration. And, I think, to me, in that scene, it shows like maybe Jack didn't do it. But who would get... It could be like a mystery character they haven't revealed that might have seen what Anna saw, too. That since Jack knows that Anna was at the scene of the crime due to the security footage at the graveyard and stuff. And I was wondering like that, though. There could be, but if there wasn't a mystery character, then Jack might have done it. But here, in that moment where he's just talking to Anna's mom, maybe he didn't do it. This leads it up. And this is where I met earlier, that this episode, that each new story that pops up in here, or type of dramatic dialogue conversation, with these characters, the tone changes a little bit. Like this, the tone of each scene does a complete 180, where it's like, okay, maybe he's that crooked, or maybe this person's that crooked, or maybe this one's guilty, or maybe that's not one not guilty. But this is the moment in this episode that was estranged to me, the tone of it. Now he looks, and there's something that we're not understanding as the viewers that they haven't revealed. But if you also see in this episode that we know that Jack visit the school, knowing that Helene was there, and he told his work partner, not to tag along. Hey, just keep following Clyde, and that's how she found that. But in the end of this episode, we find out that Helene is dead. Helene Wang is dead. And who called it in? Anna. Now, it's easy from my perspective, because it's easy to just assume that Jack did it because he was the first one to break into the school knowing that she was there at night. But we don't know what Anna was doing besides having a real odd moment with Lexi's husband, Richard. They were just kind of having a moment, but could have she done it earlier? Like maybe Richard passed out and she went off and did the deed, or did Jack do the deed? But she's dead, and that's how this episode ended. And I think that it was very interesting with that. This is why I wouldn't say Anna did it at this moment, because we did learn that it was kind of implied that maybe, just maybe, that Anna's mom, who's dealing with dementia, she might have dropped the baby. She had a bad feeling, and Jack was like, no, let's just go out. We're going out. It was probably like a date night or whatever. And that's what they kind of implied. And so I just wonder, too, I think Anna, her at this point, is just trying to, I think she's just trying to find a way to be happy again. I think what they're showing in this episode is somebody who's trying to get some success back in her life, in her career job, but also kind of fix things in a way where I think she doesn't want to be with Jack. I think now it's kind of hinting she wants to be with Richard. But I think what's going to happen is, and there's going to be a moment or a scene where maybe Anna is acting the same way as Rachel Hopkins was when she was alive. And I can see something like that kind of makes her, it takes down her ego, bursts her ego a little bit. As far as Detective Jack Harper, I think, in the flash scene where, I think Rachel scratched him, but I think it has to do with the type of keekiness that she's in. But whatever reason, it pushed Jack and stuff, and it looked like he hit her. But I'm not, it doesn't mean he murdered her at this moment. But something about dumping Jay, which I'm sure it's Jack, right? Like, who else has the letter J? Was there a John or Joe? I don't know. But I also think, too, at the end of this, I think there's more than one person or group of individuals that are actually involved in part of this, that I think this, that can be pinned on this crime. That's how I can see that happening, because it looks like the way they're portraying Rachel in this show is she was mean, and she was mean as an adult, and she get what she wants, but I think it's that bad karma that comes back at us. I think that's the kind of message this show is trying to send to us in a way about the main plot, which is the death of Rachel. So it's going to be interesting, but this is a really good. I thought I like how they're just answering the last questions from the last episodes, but also just, again, giving us like what's going to happen next. Who did this? Who's that? Who does this belong to type moment. I like how they just add more to it. But what I liked about this particular episode was we got to see between Anna and Jack, we're seeing things like what their flaws. We're watching Jack kind of crumble, or, he's starting to crack a little bit. And as he's getting sloppy with his police work, but Anna is also getting sloppy with her work as a journalism. And I think what's going to be her downfall is obviously the affair that she's having with Richard, who's a married man to Zoe. I think that's going to be her downfall, once that gets exposed, because I think it's becoming more obvious, and I think people in that hotel, who works at that hotel, are going to snitch as well, because it's a small town, and that's the vibe that they're giving. So, but at least we get to see those two characters. And I also, one thing too, that they showed, like, there are moments where they show like they regret some of the stuff they have done in the past, or in those moments. Like, they both want to be a good person, but I think in both their minds, it might be too late for them in their own way. That's one thing I like about it. We're just slowly seeing a transformation of these characters between Anna and Jack. So I think that's really cool, and that's the most important thing that really makes this show really fun and cool and enjoyable to watch, is things like that. So if I had to give this a 1 out of 10, I'm definitely going to give this a 7. Really good. Really good. And I like the new things they added up in here, and I also just like the way the story just keeps on moving. It's rare when I come across a series, especially a drama series, where the dialogue is so dry at times. But this show has yet gave me a scene where the dialogue was just too dry. What I mean by too dry is, sometimes when you're doing a dramatic show, if you keep trying to explain and then keep going and going, it gets a little dry about it, because only so many people can understand the topic or the main plot so much, where you feel like you've got it, you understand this so much, where you may not even keep watching the show, and that sometimes that dry dialogue can get a person to just, drop out and not watch the show, because they kind of get the whole point of this show, and it's not fun no more or exciting to watch. So they're really doing good on this. And plus, I get it is a limited series. So, but that's my spoiler review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment Official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you're always updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace out.